Tonight, we watched two movies. The first one we're going to discuss is Neil Breen's Fateful Findings. What is the plot of Neil Breen's Fateful Findings?
Neil Breen's Fateful Findings is a movie created by a man named Neil Breen. Neil Breen plays a character named Dylan, who, as a child in 2012, because there are cars from 2012 in the scene, so apparently it takes place in 2012, he fucking finds a magic mushroom, which went under the mushroom. There's a magic box with a magic black Dungeons and Dragons dice. And then his girlfriend and him put beads in the box, and the rest of the beads go to his girlfriend's friend bracelet. Neil, now 60-year-old man, presumably in 2013 when this film was made, so he has about 50 years in a year, is walking and gets hit by a car and put in the hospital. And the girl... There's a woman who's treating him, who isn't treating him, but is a doctor at this hospital.
Yeah, she just
but not his doctor.
Some patients.
Turns out this bitch is the girl who got the friendship bracelet, but we'll come back to that later. So Neil Breen lives at his house with his wife, and I forgot. He leaves the hospital when a couple hours afterwards, because the magic of the heart of the cards and the use of the dice makes it so he's able to leave the hospital. So he strips down butt fucking naked and presumably walks home, and starts taking a shower naked, blood dripping everywhere, and then he's fine. He starts writing his book, but as it turns
he's a
out,
novelist, but he's
not really writing his second book. What he's really doing is hacking the government
and
all the corporations
he hacks everyone
on his 4 laptops, none of which are ever turned on. So,
and which all get thrown on the ground multiple times.
And then he decides that he no longer wants to take pills, presumably oxycodone, because they're pain pills.
And his wife starts abusing
them. Yes, so his wife starts abusing the pills, and he's like, you gotta get off the pills. And she's like, okay, let's throw a dinner party. And this is where we meet their friends, some blonde bitch, I don't remember her name, and her alcoholic husband who has a 1990 Ferrari.
And their daughter.
And then we'll get back into
the nurse and
I'm talking about the dinner party.
Oh.
This is where he starts spilling alcohol everywhere and throwing a fit, and we learn that their friend is an alcoholic. So then it goes back to Neil Breen hacking the internet. Some more shit happens. All of a sudden they're at a barbecue. We'll skip forward.
With the nurse?
With the nurse and the nurse's husband. We'll call him Mr. Cuck. And there they fall back in love and realize, because of the friendship bracelet, and somehow he invited this nurse over to his house. Didn't know her name. She didn't know his name. They just went over and were hanging out at Neil Breen's house. And then it turns out that they were friends as a child and they fall in love. And then in the next scene, the teenage daughter, from previously mentioned teenage daughter, is trying to have sex with Neil Breen, even though she's like maybe 18 years old. Oh, I forgot. Neil Breen also starts having visions where he's in his garage with a bunch of trash bags around him, and he's sitting buck-ass naked.
And Neil Breen has a superpower.
He has
teleporting through doors.
Oh yeah, he can teleport through doors for some fucking reason.
He can also go to garbage bag dimension.
Garbage bag dimension, which is like...
And he can bring other people there and hug them, but they have to be naked.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a vision or what. Pointless.
But the daughter gets in the pool.
Well, it's me doing the plot, but the daughter gets in the pool and takes her bra off, and then immediately says, "Oh, hi, Dylan," even though Dylan is looking through a window on the second story about 150 feet away, notices him, he hears her, says, "What the fuck?" She puts her bra back on, walks upstairs, strips naked, tries to have sex with Neil Breen in the shower. Then Neil Breen's like, "Don't you do it. I'm going to call your mom." And then she sends him home, and once she gets home, the mom and dad get in an argument. The mom shoots Ferrari guy, kills him. And then the daughter's like, you killed my dad. And then Neil Breen shows up and starts rubbing the blood all over his face and screaming about it.
About how his friend would never commit suicide because the lady...
And then how he can't help you now.
Look like a suicide.
Well, no, she doesn't know that he killed her yet. That comes later. So then he goes back.
Yeah, I know, but she tried to make it look like a suicide. Very badly.
No, she
very
badly.
She'd be caught in
She
4
puts
minutes.
the gun the opposite way. It doesn't look like it dropped out of his hand. It looks like she shot him with the gun and put it kind of near him. And had fingerprints all over it, moved the cartridge near him, but apparently good enough. And then nobody looked into it apparently because she's off scotch-free. And then they go home and some more scenes happen where he's throwing fits, he's throwing shit, he's saying, me and my wife don't get along. And then he walks around the woods for a bit with his new... No. The daughter comes over and says, oh wait, no, that's later, okay. He starts walking around the woods with his new girlfriend, who's his old girlfriend from back in the day.
Well, they go to the duck pond first.
Oh, they go to the duck pond.
And she breaks the news that she's divorcing her husband for
Cucky
him.
McGee. And then they have sex under the tree they found the magic acorn at. And then he's like, okay, I'm gonna go home now. And his wife, meanwhile, while she was having sex with him, overdosed on oxycodone. And he's like, well, this fucking works out for me. And then in the next scene, the daughter comes over and says, my mom killed my dad. And Neil Breen's like, you should probably tell the police that. And that's never brought up again. And then they go and...
The girlfriend moves in with Neil Breen.
Well, no, it's not like that. It cuts to the next scene, and they're laying in the bed where his wife committed suicide. Then in the next scene, it's revealed that the girlfriend now lives with him, and that she gets kidnapped by a guy for presumably the business people. I don't fucking know. Somebody kidnaps her for some reason.
Yeah, and
then they go outside Neil Breen's storage unit, and she's sitting in a camper trailer.
And the guy guarding the camper trailer is sleeping on the ground outside of it and doesn't have the key or know why he kidnapped the person. He can't get her out because he doesn't have the key. But luckily Neil Breen can teleport through doors, so he just teleports in.
Well, presumably he can phase through objects. But, so he saves her. They have sex again. And there's weird shit going on where the mirror's flipping out. And there's footsteps in his hallway. That happens like twice. And then all of a sudden, he calls his publishers. We never brought up the therapist because these scenes were never integral to the plot. But side note, there were these scenes where he was with his therapists, and he has one therapist that's an old lady, presumably Neil, Bleem's mom. And they just sit on 2 folding chairs in the corner of his room. Also, the hospital he's in is also clearly the room that he lives in. You can see the same walls, the same windows, but that's beside the point. His mom shows up and is the therapist, and they talk.
Yeah,
and then later in the movie, around the same time I'm at with the plot, which we'll get back to, she phases out of existence and disappears. I guess she was magical.
And he has another therapist earlier who's...
Well, no, he's in the whole movie,
conference room.
Yeah, he operates out of a conference room, and then there's a note on the wall that says, like, yo, I quit. Literally a fucking sticky note. The patients weren't notified. So, that was interesting. But I guess back to where I was. The footsteps are going on, the mirror starts tweaking out, and then he calls his publisher and says, hey, my second novel isn't happening. Then he calls his publisher again and says, actually, I'm going to publish a bunch of information, but give me a press conference. Then he goes in front of the Washington Monument and starts talking about how all these bank people and politicians are corrupt. So the politicians in front of the crowd start fucking killing themselves. Some of them shoot themselves through the face. The woman...
One of them shoots himself in the chin.
One shoots herself in the chin. One hangs himself. One
slits his wrist.
One dies in the car by doing the old hose thing. And then there's a sniper that's about to snipe him. And then the guy just fucking gets shot somehow. Presumably from Neil's psychic powers. Was able to turn the bullet around or something through the sniper rifle. I don't fucking know. The guy gets shot. Either a sniper was there or it was Neil Bleem's powers. It's not explained. So that's how it ends, and he's like, this is fucking great. And him and his girlfriend walk through a field. So the moral of the story is, Neil Breen is a very good guy, even though he's a fucking douchebag.
Even though he caused 30 people to commit suicide.
Yes. So, I mean, Aiden, what did you think of fucking Neil Breen's Vanity Project?
It's the worst movie ever made. It's the most nonsensical, creepy thing ever. Pretty much nothing in this movie makes sense. It has effectively no plot. I mean, there's a plot, but it doesn't make any sense.
And there's a whole bunch of plot lines that are just
edited,
like, oh, I'm going to put this in and it's done the next scene.
It's edited so badly that pretty much nothing makes sense. Even if it wasn't edited like shit, it wouldn't make sense. But it's edited so badly where, like, his wife dies and then it cuts back to him having sex in the woods with the girl, like, after he finds her corpse and stuff. Like, the editing seems like it was just, like, shit was just randomly thrown into Sony Vegas. And it was edited in Sony Vegas because you can tell by the credits.
I feel like he's like at approximately this point this happens and it all got tossed in a folder, like this will happen like 10 minutes in, this will happen like 15 minutes in, then he just slid it in as he saw fit, because it literally had no pacing. How do you write the script and it ends up like this?
The credits straight up say that Neil Breen did pretty much all the work in this movie himself. He wrote, directed, edited,
may or may not have catered it,
produced.
I think he catered it because it said
costume design.
There was a message that said any company that started with an N or a B, was it? Yeah, Neil and Breen. So any company with an N or a B in the name. I don't know if it meant the start, but it said in the name, not at the start. It said in the name was Neil Breen, and there was like N Co. And I'm like, did this dude just make ramen noodles for everybody or something? Like, it was baffling. This movie. The credits were fucked.
But anyway, the acting is terrible all around. The special shout out to Neil Breen's dead wife, who had a fake Russian accent, or a real,
at times.
Sometimes she did. Drunk Man was a very bad actor. I mean, there's so many
girl,
things.
the young child, the 16-year-old that was trying to fuck Neil Breen.
Drunk Man. There's like a scene at the dinner party where he knocks over his beer, and then he says, "Can I get a cup of wine?" He doesn't clean up the beer, and then it cuts to Neil Breen saying something. Like, nothing in this movie has any payoff, even in the same scene.
Oh yeah.
I'm not talking long-term payoff. I'm talking half the shit that happens in any individual scene is literally garbage nonsense.
Remember the point when the wife killed the dude, like shot him? Then the daughter comes in and says, "You killed my dad," and she says, "It's okay, he was an asshole anyhow."
Yeah.
The dialogue in this movie is fucking garbage. Everyone was bad at acting, definitely.
The small handful of special effects in this movie were all stock After Effects things. There's like this cloud that comes whenever Neil Breen does magic or something. It happens like 6 times, and I'm not sure what the fuck.
I'm not positive how he got these.
And it's like
powers.
It's like 7 frames a second. It's like.
Where did the beats come from? They were just kind of on the ground by the magic dice that give Neil Breen his powers.
Why
and his
does
powers
this thing
include
have
phasing
powers?
through things, sitting in a garage full of trash bags,
Did
ass
the dice
fucking
give him
naked.
the powers, or did he already have powers and just find the dice?
I don't know.
Why
was he 6 years old in 2012? And then in 2013, when this movie was made, he's 60 years old, and the girl that's
and then there's
the
that
same
fucking,
age or a similar age from him is like 25.
And then there's that fucking scene where he goes out to the desert and stands near a box, and he says something to someone, and then it just cuts away. Like, nothing in this movie makes any fucking sense. it's nonsense. It doesn't make sense. The therapist, the dead wife calls the therapist and tells him that Neil Breen is working on a secret book, and then the therapist is like, and you're like, okay, the therapist is the villain, and then he leaves a sticky note and he disappears from the movie. He's like, okay, see ya. And when Neil Breen shows the evidence that all the politicians are evil, they're like, yeah, I'm evil. You caught me. I'm gonna go to jail forever. And then they shoot themselves in the brain. They cart off the body, and the next politician walks up to kill themselves on stage.
It was like something you'd see in fucking Islam, not the United States of America, in front of the fucking U.S. Capitol.
It felt like a parody, like something South Park would do, where Donald Trump gets called out for corruption and he kills himself, and then Mike Pence steps up and he also kills himself. Like, it literally was like a South Park gag, but it was supposed to be serious. And there's like a 9-minute montage of politicians killing themselves.
Not a single one's like, I'll just, I'm going to go to jail or I have to resign. It wasn't like that where they're all forced to resign or they're all going off in handcuffs. Neil Breen wouldn't be happy with that. They had to make a public suicide in front of everybody, like Bud fucking Dwyer. Except, okay, that was a call out, but repeatedly. It wasn't once, it was like 10 fucking times.
Also, one of the guys just shoots himself in the chin like this, which probably wouldn't kill him, just horribly deform him.
It would blast his chin off. His best bet would be to bleed out.
But yeah, it's the worst movie. Worse than Troll 2 in everything except dialogue. Worse than The Room in everything. And
I feel like I said while we were watching the film, every politician that killed himself at the end was like, it was like a score multiplier. Like, it was pretty much a little bit worse than The Room, but every politician that killed himself was like, it was the fucking score multiplier you get. It was the extra stars you get at the end of Mario Party. Just made it that much more fucking retarded. I'm like, this movie is absolute. It was the most retarded movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'm not saying that because it was a good time because it was so retarded. But I can't lie and sit here and tell you guys it wasn't the most retarded movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
Far and away the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, what'd you think of the movie in detail?
Like Aiden said, I mean, the acting was bad. I think the biggest thing I can add to Aiden's critique was I want to emphasize how creepy this movie was. His girlfriend was like 25. His wife was like 35. His wife was like 35, and basically Neil Breen was giving out whatever. It was giving off vibes like this old hag, I need to upgrade. So he switches to his 25-year-old girlfriend that's apparently the same age as him back in 2012 when they were both 9 years old a year ago. And then he goes as far as to, I think people might have called him a pedophile for his old movies or something. I don't know. I'm sure he always went for young girls and it was always sort of awkward. But it was like this girl couldn't have been more than 18 or 19 years old playing the part. Maybe at oldest 23. So she strips down naked for Neil, and he's like, no, I would never have sex with a minor. Because this character is supposed to live with her mom and dad, and seemingly, based on what she does, she was clearly not a mature adult. I feel like in the movie she was supposed to be like 15 or 16 years old. I'm honestly, when she stripped down naked, I'm like, is he gonna smash? I thought that was gonna happen. But he stopped just short of that. Everybody else wanted to fuck Neil. And he was tasteless. He didn't even pretend to have a taste. And part of it was how it was edited. Like, there was no bridge between his wife. There was literally one scene between his wife killing herself in his bed and him having sex with his new girlfriend in his bed, seemingly without any lapse of time. Him hacking the government, half the scenes that have to do with him hacking the government is we don't know what's going on. He's just fake typing on a computer that's clearly off. And he has like 4 laptops for no fucking reason.
And he throws his laptops on the ground repeatedly.
And let's assume he was 6 in 2006 or whatever, or 2012. I'll be generous. We'll say it was 2009. He was 6 years old. Assuming that even if Neil was the same age as his young girlfriend, if we're supposed to believe that he's actually like, let's say 27 years old or whatever the age the girl was, we would have to assume that he was living in that this movie takes place approximately, we'll say, throwing a dart at a dartboard, we'll call it 2030. So in 2030, he's using a fucking Vizio laptop from 1994, and he's able to hack the biggest businesses and governments in America. And he has 4 laptops, so obviously maybe he combines the process power and has like 64 megabytes of fucking computing power. But all of them are off. It's like this movie is honestly, and what was the fucking trash bag scenes? He sits buck-ass naked in the trash bags. Was it supposed to be like
he doesn't talk
an artistic scene
so
or something? Or is that one of his superpowers?
I think
Did the
it's
girl
artistic.
know when he was in there? Dude, I'm not gonna lie. And the drug thing, where they're popping pills and shit, I mean, I guess it kind of paid off, but both the women, like, the pills either make you die or make you a murderer.
Well, let's not forget the fact that
this was perhaps the most... Well, no, it wasn't perhaps. This was literally the most retarded movie I've ever seen.
let's not forget the fact that Neil Breen is a fucking wizard who can teleport.
Oh, yeah.
Through doors.
I'm not
He
gonna
can only
lie.
teleport very small distances.
This was one of the most... It wasn't teleportation, it was phasing. 2 different powers. But I do want to point out that at the end of the day, this might have been a retarded movie, but it was fucking epic in all the right ways. I was laughing, I was creeped out. It had everything Tommy Wiseau had in the room. Like, he's like, I can do it better than Tommy. Like, I don't fucking know. It was like if the room was like, if there was somehow a way that some human being could be so retarded they could one-up the room. I could have written a better script when I was 15. And if I had the money to pull it off, I feel like if I had the same budget, I could have made a much better movie than this motherfucker. So, Aiden, well, should we recommend this now or should we go through Samurai Cop first?
No, let's recommend this. I'm not talking about Samurai Cops. I'm gonna fucking talk.
Okay, we'll just do that in a separate video, but the intro is now kind of null and void. I'm pretty tired though. Aiden, would you recommend...
Fuck yes. Yeah, this is the best bad movie ever. It's
Samurai Cop's better.
It's up there with Samurai Cop and The Room and Troll 2 and all those classic, terrible, fucking horrible, hilarious movies. This movie is right there alongside them. And it's about 10 times more baffling than those 3 movies combined. It doesn't have as much action as Samurai Cop, which gives Samurai Cop the edge.
Samurai Cop was also like balls to the walls, hilarious the whole time.
This movie is
This was
confusing and weird and hilarious. So yes, I'd recommend it. Connor, would you recommend Fateful?
I would recommend it if you like bad movies, like funny bad movies. If you're like, I want a good movie, stay the fuck away from this movie because a good movie is not a way to describe this. But if you want to watch The Room on methamphetamine, this is pretty much what that is. Like, I swear to Christ, I don't know what drugs this motherfucker was on, but this honestly might not even be the worst Neil Breen movie. I've heard some bad things, and this is like his 3rd movie, so he probably improved quite a bit. So I think it's fair to say expect to see reviews of the other 3 Neil Breen movies. The man has my interest.
Neil Breen is an artiste.
He's a fucking artiste.